Stud Muffin 1986 here. Welcome back, everyone. World of Tanks Blitz. Woo! So, I'm going to be doing another video here that I thought actually would be a little interesting. Going over the top 5 most played tanks. Just within the last 90 days. Now, there's two different sets of data here that was on BlitzStars. One was of all time, and another one was within the last 90 days. There was the top 10 list I felt was a little skewed. I didn't really want to quite go off of it because there was so many tanks in there that were just, it was actually quite obvious because they're tanks that have been in the game since the game even started. So, of course, they're going to have the most battles. However, there were some things that were quite interesting. So I'm actually going to go over both lists as a treat. So first, I'm going to go over the top 5 most played tanks in Blitz over the last 90 days. And I'll be honest with you, this doesn't really catch me by surprise. And there's a pattern here, and I can see why a lot of players are drawn to these types of tanks. They're a lot of fun to play, and you can get a lot of satisfaction out of playing with these. And as a matter of fact, if you have any of these, you'll probably nod your head and be like, "Yep, that tank I probably have a lot of battles in." So first up. Once again, we're going to start with the list of the top 5 most played tanks in the last 90 days, which is number 5, going from least to the most, the Borsig, the Tier 8 German light tank destroyer. This thing is a lot of fun. I have it. I've played a lot of battles in it. Very derpy, and almost every single time, like, agree with me or not, if you play tier 8, I feel like 90% of the time you're gonna see a Borsig in the battle. It's almost just a given. This is a very popular tank for 1.4 million battles. So definitely a popular tank. Next up is the tier 10 German tank destroyer, the Grill. This one also kind of derpy and light, so very maneuverable. It's a very fun tank. I have it. I enjoy playing with it. You do have that flexibility. The turret can rotate a little bit. It used to be a bit more OP back in the day, and they've nerfed the thing. But it still is ranked, as a matter of fact, is one of the most played games. So definitely see why. So that was number 4, the Grill. Number 3 is the FV215183. Now, definitely no surprise here, honestly. As a matter of fact, this is actually ranked as my most played tank in the game. And this thing, I have said in multiple videos before, has been nerfed multiple times, but you can see here, regardless of the nerfs, this thing is still played with a ton, with over 1.638 million games. I mean, that is pretty crazy. It's just a fun tank. There's just something to being able to go in a game and just put a round into something I think it has an alpha of 1600, but you're probably going to be doing around 1200 damage a shot with that high pen HE round. So a lot of fun. So, yeah, you can kind of see probably a little bit of a pattern here, but we'll go into number 2, which is the Tier 8 American light tank. Yes, you guessed it, the T49. This honestly ranks as one of my top 10 most favorite tanks. This thing is like a light tank KV2. I know my brother's been on the fence about getting it. This thing can be a little tricky, but man, when you get this thing in the right spot, oh, it feels good. So you're able to put out that really high alpha and just zip around the map and just be an absolute nuisance. So yeah, at 1.8 8.11 million battles in the last 90 days. So pretty crazy. I mean, these are all tanks, I'll be honest with you, not just the RHM, but all these tanks. I mean, wouldn't you guys agree with me that anytime you enter whatever tier these tanks are in, you see these tanks almost 90% of the time? If you don't maybe recognize it, go into a game of one of these tiers and 90% of the time you'll probably see one of these tanks in the game. But that leads us to our number one most played tank. This one kind of caught me by surprise. I thought the 183 might have been it or some of these others, but this one doesn't really catch me by surprise either. So number one, the most played tank in the last 90 days, according to BlitzStars, is the Tier 9 German light tank destroyer, the Waffenträger, with over 2.327 million battles. The players really love this tank. I honestly haven't played with this tank a whole lot. Quite an interesting one. Definitely have to use this tank more so from the cannon being side to side. You definitely do get better flexibility with your cannon and movement that way. Whereas if it's pointed like forward, you definitely don't have any gun depression or just anything whatsoever. But you move that, you face that cannon backwards or off to the side, you do have a lot more gun depression. So yeah, I mean, and maybe we're guilty. These are probably, I would bet you, if you have any of these very well could be even some of your most played tanks. Maybe go back and check and see which ones you have the most battles in. So I just thought this was fun. Now there is a different list that I'm going to go over. Not so much in detail, but this is just all-time top 10 most played tanks in Blitz. Okay, so we are going into the top 10 most played tanks in Blitz of all time. A little bit different, but number 10, the T62A. This was one that has been in the game for a long time. I think even since the beginning. So nothing really new with this tank. Doesn't surprise me. Very good. Number 9 is the IS-3. Once again, no surprise here. This tank has been in the game since it came out. And there has been a lot of players that have played this tank. This tank was, it always has been in a way, just a good, solid tank. And just a really good turret. And a lot of players are drawn toward the IS-3. So that's number 9. Number 8 goes right in line here, the IS-3 Defender. When this thing first came out, totally OP. It's recently come back in the store. Just absolutely crazy. So, that tank was number 8. Number 7, tank that's been out for a while and has been nerfed. Still a good tank, but dang, this thing was OP back in the day. The T-54, Tier 9 medium tank. Still good, not as good as it was way back in the day, but still a good tank, but just an old one. Number 6, the E100, once again, a tank that's just, been out since the beginning of the game. So, I mean, very explanatory here. And then number 5 is the VK16.02 Leopard, Tier 5 tank. Which this one, this one's not one of those ones that have been out in the game from the very beginning, but a lot of players are definitely drawn to this thing with its maneuverability, its fast shooting cannon, zipping around, and playing at Tier 5. This is definitely a tank, and being a tank that has not been in the game since the dawn of time or like the beginning of Blitz. It has been in the game for a while, but very impressive that it ranked way up, even above some of these other ones. Number 4, been in the game since the beginning, the IS-7 Tier 10 Russian tank. Definitely more OP back in the day, not as much anymore. But yeah, I mean, you do see this one on the battlefield. I can see this one maybe dropping a little bit. And then number 3 is the IS-6 premium tank. Once again, I mean, I saw this thing played with a ton way back in the day when people were seal clubbing, you know, platooning, the +2, -2 matchmaking, and the preferential this thing was definitely just crazy to come across. I could maybe see this one drop in the stats, and even some of those other top ones that we had talked about definitely increasing in the ranks. And number 2 and number 1 definitely don't surprise me, and probably don't surprise you either, because we see these in the game quite a bit too. But number 2 is the KV-2 Tier 6 Russian tank. Derp guns, that's the pattern, ladies and gentlemen. Derp guns, I guess, is just where it's at. The most loved and most played tanks in the game. So yeah, KV-2 at number 2. And then number 1, the most played tank that has the most battles of all time. It hasn't been in the game since the beginning, but it definitely was on that original list. And you guessed it, the FV-183 is the most played tank in the game. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. This is Stud Muffin 1986. You guys stay cool and keep tanking.